right plays. I love his growth and progression in those areas where he's still guarding on defensive end, still getting others involved, not pouting about his shots, and trying to play through some mistakes and some physicality that they were playing with him. So when they went to boxing one on him to try to take him out, made it tough at times. But
All right,
we're a team. We don't rely on
here we
one guy,
go.
and you saw others step up tonight.
We're just gonna listen to a little bit of what Emi Udoka has to say, and then we'll kind of get started with our own analysis on this Celtic stuff. Again, some of the quotes and highlights that we've seen so far from Emi Udoka is that this is the kind of team we've been all year: tough, grinders, and a resilient group, and I can 100% agree with that.
Turnovers to start the quarter. We didn't have an extremely high number, only finished with 13, but started the quarter off poorly in that area. We hadn't played our best by any stretch of the imagination in the first half, and to only be down 4, we felt we were in decent shape, knowing they come out playing hard in the third, turn the ball over, and then Looney on the glass. I think they had 4 or 5 offensive rebounds that quarter, and so the extra possessions for them, that's obviously way too many. Given
again, another thing that he said was it's rewarding to know that we can play so much better. That's the main thing.
Did that in the fourth quarter.
And again, like I said, I kind of want to reiterate this point. And before we get started, hopefully you guys are enjoying today's episode of The Charge, or whether you're watching this live, or whether you're watching the pre-recorded version. I hope you guys are enjoying your day. This is, of course, a fun thing to talk about. NBA Finals can be a very rewarding and also excruciating thing, especially, at the end of winners and losers. And it's just awesome to see that a guy like Emi Udoka is getting the recognition and the praise that he deserves as being the head coach of the Boston Celtics. Again, I was one of those that was not very much, because I was a big more of a Chauncey Billups guy, and I will keep reiterating that point more so for my own, found of just not smartness. But, Emi Udoka has proven time and time again he was the right hire. The Brad Stevens and the front office did an amazing job of bringing in Emi Udoka and really worked his magic with this team. And again, at the start of the season, I wasn't very optimistic just because of our bench. I think there was a lack of depth. There was a lack of, the guys that we really need to step up. And in today's game, we kind of saw that there was guys that could step up for us. And so I do appreciate that from Emi Udoka. I appreciate him stepping up in that sense. And again, I will keep praising Emi Udoka because he is a tremendous and terrific coach, and you could tell by the way that he controlled that game at the end of the fourth quarter, along with the players as well. I mean, the players obviously take number one priority, and then of course the coach as well, taking the second helm. But he did an amazing job of getting those guys to buy into what they needed to do in that fourth quarter. So with that being said, and the long-winded intro praising Emi Udoka, hopefully you guys are enjoying today's episode of The Charge. Like I said, bringing you the latest NBA news and rumors, and also basketball opinion. And of course, we got to talk about tonight's game, that being the Boston Celtics defeating the Golden State Warriors tonight in game number 1 of the NBA Finals, 120-108. And what seemed to me like a game that the Golden State Warriors easily would have won against a team like the Dallas Mavericks, the Phoenix Suns. You could even say the Miami Heat, or even, to be honest with you, I think the Brooklyn Nets. I think they also win this game. The Celtics just never gave up, and it was kind of one of those things that you saw the coaches talk about it. Resilience. Resilience is the number one thing that a team needs in order to come back from 15 points down. Again, like I said, the Celtics, a young team, a team that, has a lot of young players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who did not play well tonight. You could have saw that, and they could have just crumbled. They could have just been like, well, it's too hard. I don't really want to work. I don't really want to get going. But they showed you the resilience of what it means to be an NBA championship caliber type of team, where you're playing resilient defense, you're staying within the system, you're staying in it to win it. And I want to show you guys kind of the biggest thing for me when I look at the fourth quarter versus the third quarter. I thought we did a tremendous job of limiting how many shots that they got. And if we can kind of count the makes for them, I mean, it wasn't really that many attempts, if you will, compared to the attempts that the Celtics had. I mean, we had 9 3-pointers in that fourth quarter, a tremendous amount. And then if we look at the third quarter, this is when the Warriors kind of made their little run. But I think at the end of the day, we did a great job of kind of holding our own in that third, just enough to get us back into the game. And then, of course, we kind of made our fourth quarter comeback, 40, I believe, to I think it was 18, if I'm not mistaken. It was a small amount. And, I think the biggest reason as to why the Celtics won tonight is because they did not force the issue when things had to happen. Again, those 9 threes happened because we got paint touches that I believe we did not get in the third quarter. When we look at the third quarter, I would love to track this stat, and maybe this might be a stat to track on later, in a game and just kind of see how many times they got into the paint. But there's a lot of times where we got into the paint and we moved the ball, and that's just how basketball has to be played in today's game. You cannot no longer is it a game of, oh, let me just kind of ISO and get my own shot and do things like that. You have to move the ball, and you can clearly see that moving the ball rewarded the Celtics, especially in the fourth quarter. I think that the fourth quarter is what we can expect from the Celtics from here on out. It has to be, because the way that they played, the way that they moved the ball, this is the way the Boston Celtics are going to win against the Golden State Warriors. I also thought we did a pretty good job tonight, that being Al Horford and even Robert Williams to some extent, of doing a great job of hedging the screens. I thought that was kind of the wrinkle that the Celtics made in this game. I noticed it a lot in the fourth quarter. They did a little bit more hedging, just to make sure that Steph Curry doesn't get a shot off. Not icing the ball screens. And like I said, I think that those two guys, that being Smart, that being Horford, especially Horford, tonight was Horford's game. I mean, if we look at the box scores, yes, Jaylen Brown obviously lit up the scoring board tonight. I think Jason Tatum played a more unselfish role. Even though he took 17 shots, he does have to take those shots being the star player, but he did such an amazing job of assisting the game. When he knows that it's not his turn, when he knows that he's not going off for as many points as he normally should or would, he's giving it to you in other categories, and that's awesome to see, because the Tatum of 2 years ago or even last year, I think he would have just taken those shots no matter what, and I don't think he would have gotten the amount of assists. I know the assists aren't everything, but his ball movement, the way that he's able to drive the paint, and even got Al Horford a nice shot off a timeout and getting him that little mid-range shot. And kind of goes to show you like how valuable Tatum's passing ability has been lately, with the way that we've been able to move the rock and things like that. So I've been really impressed with him. I don't think that this was necessarily Wiggins' game. I think Wiggins was a little bit off, 2 for 7 from 3. Draymond Green, when you make Draymond Green shoot, you see the difference between the two. I mean, the fact that Draymond Green took 12 shots in tonight's game goes to show you that you have to have Draymond take those shots. There is no way around playing, when it comes to the Boston Celtics. You have to force that guy to shoot the ball to keep you open and honest as the Celtics. But also at the Celtics, you do encourage that, because you saw there 2 for 12, 0 for 4 from 3, 0 for 3 from the free throw line. You have to force that guy to shoot, because he's obviously shown that he is not as good of a shooter as he once was a couple years back. And I think you have to kind of force the weakness of Draymond, which is, of course, forcing those shots and forcing, those mistakes, which he did a lot of. Not necessarily in the turnovers, but, you miss a lot of bad shots. You miss some shots here and there. It's another fast break for us to go up and down the court. That's kind of the way it went. Steph Curry, I think he had an okay game. And in terms of, for me, what means an okay game is that I think with the amount of shots that he has, I think he has to be a little bit more efficient. I know it was a little bit under 50. But I think that they could have gotten some better looks. I know Klay Thompson did not look like himself tonight. I think that he will probably come back in the next game and really kind of show it to us. And then, of course, off the bench, you had Otto Porter Jr. shooting those threes. Andre Iguodala hits that 1-3. And didn't really add too much. Jordan Poole didn't really do too much either. I think defensively he's the liability. As much as he has been good in the playoffs, I think that with the Boston Celtics depth, which is a crazy thing to say in 2022, and something I thought I would never say as someone that's been harping on the Celtics bench for God knows how long now, I think it does disrupt his ability to play the game. And I think that, with being able to have at least Pritchard being out on the court and doing some things, playing 16 minutes, not necessarily going to play the most crazy amount of minutes that I would say, not playing the crazy amount of minutes, but doing enough. And I think Derek White has come into his own. I know me and Tyrese have criticized Derek White for a long time. But I think that it was kind of one of those things where he's been so hot the last couple games. You have to give him those opportunities again and see what he can do with it, and see if he can roll with it. And he obviously rolled with it tonight. 6 for 11, 5 for 8 from 3, 4 for 4 on the free throw line. tremendous value there, plus 25. I mean, it kind of goes to show. Again, Jaylen Brown to me, good player in terms of not like good player, and what I mean to say is that I think he had a tremendous fourth quarter and third quarter to kind of get us back into position. But like I said, tonight's game was Al Horford's game, man. 9 for 12, 6 from 8 from three-point land. When you talk about the ultimate role player game, this is the ultimate role player game. Al Horford, obviously from Florida, went to Atlanta, then came to us in that big deal, where we got Kyrie Irving, we got Gordon Hayward, and then of course we drafted these two young guys in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and we were going to look like the future of the NBA, and I called it the oven bake process at that point. But obviously that process kind of fizzled out. Kyrie Irving left, and then we kind of got stuck in the situation. And I think that team probably would have been all right. Even now, I think we actually would have been a little bit more deadlier. But at the end of the day, I think that this team played the way that I think it should. I think that when you look at guys like Jaylen Brown, kind of carrying the load tonight in terms of the two J's, you can clearly see that he did a tremendous job there. Jason Tatum, 3 for 17, obviously not his night tonight. Had 12 points, mostly from the free throw line, got those 5 points from the free throw line, and then the 3 other field goals to get 12. And then, of course, Robert Williams. I didn't think he necessarily played great at times. I think there was a little too many times where he got stripped. I know there was that Otto Porter Jr. stripped from him in that third quarter where, you're kind of looking at him and it's like, come on, dude, you got to make sure you got to hang on to the ball a little bit stronger. But still, I think he does play a tremendous role. I think he is kind of like the Draymond neutralizer in terms of being able to really fight through the screens and really be a big body to help guys that come off those, like Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, whoever's guarding Curry, and putting Draymond in that pick and roll situation. Does a tremendous job helping out in that sense. And the reason why I think we were able to hedge very well tonight, Al Horford, a great kind of perimeter defender at times, not necessarily going to do it all the time, being that he is of an older age, but it still didn't matter to me. Excuse me as I'm yawning. It's been a long day, and no excuse for the yawning, but to come back home and watch a tremendous second half of the game, I can't ask for more. Again, this game was won in what seems to me in typical fashion for the Celtics in terms of being able to rally from the storm. Now, like I talked about a little bit earlier, when it comes to the Warriors, they could do no wrong in the third quarter. I feel like their third quarters are things of magic. Like when you think about the Warriors, when they made that third quarter run when it was 38-24, I really thought that, this can go sour. And I think that's what the Warriors expect from a lot of these guys, because I think they change. And I need to watch the third quarter a little bit more. They got a lot more 3-pointers off. They got a lot more shots off from the outside, more so than I think that in the last couple of quarters, especially that fourth quarter. I think that when we look at kind of the shots that they were able to get, especially 3-pointers, they had about, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 attempts off in that fourth quarter, compared to the third quarter where they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 shots. I mean, and that's the difference between them making about 6 threes in that quarter compared to, I believe, in that fourth quarter, they did not make that much. I believe they only made 2. And so when you're able to kind of withhold the storm and withstand it, and realize like, okay, we cannot let them play the outside game. We have to force them in. And I think the synopsis of that for me was that mid-range shot that Steph Curry took over Al Horford and how hard Steph Curry had to work to get that bucket. And I just think that that's the recipe for the Celtics from here on out in order to get them over the hump, in order for them to become, the team that I think that I know that they are. Like, if you can force them to be a little bit more inside the paint centric focused, yes, they will make a good amount, but at the same time, it does a tremendous job of now you have the ability to now attack the paint, collapse the defense, kick out, hit the threes. And again, I know that we're not going to get this Al Horford, Derek White game all over again in game number 2, or even, I don't think the rest of the series. And that's not even including Jason Tatum, who did not play very well tonight. In the scoring category, at least. Defensively, I think he was okay. I think assist wise is kind of being the primary ball handler, bringing up the court. I think he did a tremendous job. You also got to give kudos to Andrew Wiggins for kind of holding his own on him. And so for me, like I said, this came down to some great execution in the fourth quarter. As we look at the first quarter, again, we did a good job of getting a lot more paint touches, a lot more shots inside. They were more on the outside. And then if we go to the second quarter, this is where it kind of dried up for us. We got 1, 2, 3. We got only 3-point made in that second quarter compared to them making about 4. Obviously, that makes a huge difference. But I believe I wish we could see and kind of cap to see how many shots that they took in that game. But, I still think at the end of the day, the Celtics did a tremendous job. They knew what they needed to do. And, like I said, give credit to Ime Udoka in that sense. And, when you're making 21 threes in a game, that does a lot of different things. That helps you win a lot more games than not. But again, it's not like the Celtics or the Warriors didn't make 19 of those threes. I think for me, what it came down to as well is that they just did not make a lot of their 2-point shots that they needed to. And again, we made them have to take tough shots. And that's something that is a recipe for any team, especially in the NBA Finals, especially at the caliber level of both the Warriors and the Celtics defensively. You have to force them to take not so great shots. And even then, 44% as a team is not necessarily that bad. Free throw wise, we did a better job. Draymond Green obviously kind of weighed down the free throw percentage for them. But I still think at the end of the day, it was a well-balanced game. It was a well-even game. So you can't say anything about that in terms of, one team shot better than the other. Rebounds were identical. Assists were a lot different. I think the Warriors only had 24 compared to the Celtics 33. And then the turnovers were relatively the same. I think they were both 6. If I'm not mistaken, 14 turnovers, 13 turnovers. I think that this was probably a little bit closer than I think a lot of people realized, but I think at the same time, we made a lot more of our 2-point shots with Jaylen Brown really driving to the hole, really doing a lot of different things there for us. And so, again, I'm excited for this series. I think that this is going to be a really fun one. I think that this is going to be a series where we look to really see the true makeup of the Boston Celtics and see what can happen for them. And so I'm hopeful and excited that the Celtics will continue their run and continue to hopefully, in the second game, continue that same matchup and same energy that they had in this first game. Again, I these guys that were playing a couple minutes are not going to be in there. I think Grant Williams will give us a little bit more. I think Jason Tatum will obviously play a lot better. And I think Derek White may cool off just a little bit, but not enough to where I think he's going to be an issue. And Peyton Pritchard just has to give us those 10 to 12 minutes, in my opinion, of Peyton Pritchard in order to be successful in this game. That being, whether he shoots, I think he needs to at least make a 3-pointer or 2 in a game in order to be successful. I think obviously rebounding is kind of a small thing for him. He's more of a hustle guy, and so I do appreciate him doing that stuff for us. And so to me, the Boston Celtics, again, did a great job. I'll probably go on tomorrow to do a little bit more of an in-depth analysis in the game itself and with film, rather than kind of doing this sort of post-game talk where, I'm really kind of not showing you guys anything. And again, it's not to the fact that I don't want to show you guys. It's just I don't want to get copyright by the NBA, and I think it's better to do it in the video, because I think in the video it's more fair use than the live stream. I'm not sure how, but I'm just going to play by their rules. And so tomorrow we'll go a little bit more in-depth analysis on those teams. And so, I think we'll call it a good there for a stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's kind of little synopsis of the Boston Celtics Golden State Warriors, what kind of led to the success of the Boston Celtics, especially in that fourth quarter, winning it 40-16. It was clear to me and clear to everybody to see that once those 3-pointers went in for the Celtics, it was not going to stop there. And you got, like I said, you got to give Ime Udoka, you got to give Jaylen Brown, and especially Al Horford a ton of credit tonight for the gutsy and the chutzpah that the both guys played tonight. And of course, the coach doing a great job of really breaking down and kind of taking advantage of some of the mismatches that they saw, and not really forcing Curry to go supernova in a sense where he's going to shoot a lot of those shots, but if you can force the other guys to kind of be off their game a little bit, you're going to live with those results, because I think you can outscore Steph Curry with the roster that the Celtics have. But at the end of the day, I think it'll be a fun one to watch. I still think it's going to be Celtics in 6, and so we'll see what happens there in the future from here on out. But with that being said, my name is Bernie. Thank you once again for joining us here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors, and also basketball opinions. Anyway, guys, catch you guys on the next episode, which will probably be tomorrow. Again, I might be live streaming for that one in terms of just breaking down film and showing clips. But maybe it's better to do a video so I can actually show you guys and not get copyright.